And you're all on this panel for natural resources. We've got representatives from Sun Corridor, Trail Alliance, Dead Horse Ranch State Park, the Verde Front, as well as Friends of the Verde River. So we're going to start with you, Mr. Thurman, as a representative from the Sun Corridor Trail Alliance. Thanks a lot for being here.
Happy to. Thank you for inviting me.
The floor is yours virtually, so go right ahead.
Oh, okay. If you want info on the Sun Corridor Trail, this is a trail that's it was an idea of Maricopa County Parks and Rec. The Arizona Trail is a single track trail that goes from Mexico to Utah through the pretty well central eastern side of Arizona. And it's a wilderness trail, and that's fine. A lot of people want the wilderness feel, kind of like the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Coast Trail, things like that. Well, this is a different idea. This came up with that folks could do this trail actually and stay in bed and breakfasts and hotels and things like that and eat at a restaurant here and there and actually go through communities. So we started looking at starting in Douglas and working our way to Las Vegas. And from Douglas, it goes through Tombstone and eventually hits the Tucson Circle Trail. Then it picks up on the north end, the Central Arizona Project, hits then the Maricopa County Circle Trail. And on the north end of that, it hits the Black Canyon National Recreation Trail, heads up towards Mayer on that, pops up into the Prescott Circle Trail, and then north of that on the Peavine, the old narrow gauge railroad, over to Jerome area, and then down the mountain into Cottonwood and Clarkdale, over to Sedona, then heads up to Flagstaff, and then points west. So it's mostly for also communities to have fingers, if you will, to that trail if it isn't going right by a neighborhood. So folks in neighborhoods can actually get on the local trail and tie into their Sun Corridor Trail. And get people to shut their TVs off and turn their videos off and actually enjoy why we live here in Arizona. I mean, it's a big deal here to live in Arizona because of the wildland. And so here's a way folks can hike around and do it safely and not feel like they're having to be hard pressed to live for 5 days without any civilization. So that's basically the emphasis of the Sun Corridor Trail.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. I know you've been a real champion for the trail for a lot of years and trails in general, and it's certainly hit our strategic plan in years past that we want to focus heavily on trails. So appreciate your work on that, and we look forward to seeing that come to fruition.
I do too, and it actually was impetus too to let's do a circle trail in the Verde Valley also, and so it's coming right through Cottonwood, and so we can start on that circle trail. All these things take years, but we're going to get her done. We have a little tractor now that's 2 foot wide that makes the trail go a lot faster, and so we're coming your way. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for your time. All right, let's move on then to Mr. Christensen, George Christensen from the Dead Horse Ranch State Park. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Tim. Mayor, thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Thanks for being here. We can hear you loud and clear. So how are things?
We're doing good here at Dead Horse. We've been just pressing forward with COVID and all. We're just, our agency has been working hard with our new executive staff on our strategic plan as well. They wanted me to share with you kind of our 4 Ps here that they're focusing on for our next 5 years strategy. So it's parks, optimize park and trail system vitality and partnerships, grow new and leverage existing key partnerships to maximize the ROI. And then the third one's people, create an environment to cultivate a highly engaged workforce. And then fourth P is pocketbook, to maximize financial sustainability and revenue and growth. But so like we already were talking about, trails are a key part. We're working a lot with all the different entities to get contiguous trails around. As far as things happening here at Dead Horse, I thought you guys might be all interested. Of course, we're into our fall here and winter with seeing lots of great things here on the lagoons with our recent lots of river otters with the recent rainbow trout stockings. The bald eagles are really doing well and hitting the fish as well. We're also got a lot of great migratory ducks in right now with our ruddy ducks and ringnecks, buffleheads, and American widgeons. Of course, with the drought that's happening, as we all are aware, the mule deer, there's not a lot of water in the stock tanks up above, so there's a lot of the mule deer and whitetail are really coming down from the uplands and hitting it and staying along the river. So that also brings in a lot of predators as well. You know how important the Verde River is for that. Just some of the projects that we're working on here at Dead Horse that here in the near future that's coming really close to fruition that you might be interested in is we're installing 10 new You Are Here signs that was funded through the Nature Conservancy. So some nice trail signage. We finally have gotten through a lot of the SHPO clearances that's taken quite a while. As part of that, also they were clearing the terraces out here that you're very well probably familiar with out there by the playground. We're going to be converting a lot of that to sprinkler irrigation. It'll still be pulled off river water, but it'll hopefully be a lot more efficient than our current flood irrigation. So we're trying to always help keep as much water in the river as we can. Another big one that we're working on with the Nature Conservancy is that we've got the go ahead to do is to put in a test well below the Hickey Ditch flume to be able to pull water that way in case we lose the flume, so we don't lose those really great lagoons that are the focus of Dead Horse. So those I'm really excited to see that because we know that would be a good way to sustain it, because we know it happened back in 2015 when we lost a lot of the ditch and parts of the flume because it take a long time to put that back in. You can lose those lagoons really quick. I just wanted also thank Cottonwood and Parks and Rec. I'm sure you're very familiar with it, them partnering with us and doing the Outside and Safe program that Jack Till and Josh did. That is great. And Leah, being able to teach people about kayaking, fishing, and hiking and golfing. I'm glad we were able to be a part of that to help people be able to know how to do those responsibly and safely. And I'm glad they were able to come out and video those, and people are watching those. And I think that's going to be a great asset because we've got so many new people out recreating. I also want to just thank Cottonwood, since I have you guys all here, for the great IGAs that we continue to work on and have in place. Couldn't do it without you guys. You know, we always have so many different hats to wear. And that's always a threat. The more visitation we have, which we've had a real surge in it, as we all know, over the last number of months, I really appreciate all the extra help that you guys have been a part of. So.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And we do appreciate you as well. And the partnership is a beautiful thing. And we couldn't certainly be as successful without you right here in our city as well. It's a great draw for tourisms and locals alike. I'm in your park several times a week. My daughters enjoy harassing those migratory ducks around the lagoons. So let's move on then. We're going to have questions at the end for all the panelists. So we're going to move on next to Tawny Robertson from the Verde Front. Thanks, Tawny, for being here with us. Tawny, can you hear us? Can anyone hear us out there? Thumbs up if you can hear us. All right, we're all froze up.
Are we ready for the Verde Front?
Yep, we can hear you now. Can you hear us, Tawny?
I don't know, Tawny. I wasn't sure if I was done or what. If they're done.
Tawny, can you hear us?
Mic off.
We can't hear the mayor.
I can't hear any they're saying either.
So this is Ron. We'll figure this out. But Tani, yes, we can hear you. You can go ahead with the Verde front.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay, so I had originally requested to do a presentation. Is that maybe what's the problem? I can not do it if.
No. We shared screen. You should be a co-host, so you should be able to
share.
Oh, okay. It's, sorry, I don't know what it needs to do to share screen. Go to meeting. Let me see if this will do it. Oh my goodness, it says restart. Well, I'll just then verbally share it because I think there's some extra settings and I don't want to hold anything. I click at the gray screen icon at the bottom. I did, and it's asking me to restart GoToMeeting. Sorry, I don't want to hold you guys up. I'll happily send you my presentation for afterwards. My name's Tani Robertson. I'm a professional facilitator with Southwest Decision Resources, and we have, we're based in Tucson and Flagstaff. And we've been working mostly with outdoor recreation and conservation restoration types of collaboratives around Arizona, mostly, also New Mexico and Utah. And in the 2008-9 or so, the Prescott National Forest and various partners started working on kind of taking a look at the future, find shared priorities related to public lands, communities, those kinds of issues. And there was a lot of interest in outdoor recreation and working across jurisdictions, that a lot of the issues out there cross-cut jurisdictions such as trails and some of the unmanaged recreation challenges, as well as some of the really interesting opportunities like developing river recreation, which obviously goes beyond just a single jurisdiction, community awareness raising, education, stewardship. There's a kind of a collection of issues that are in the realm of tough things to solve by yourselves or really great opportunities that you kind of need to work together on. So we formed the Verde Front Collaborative in about 2013. It's set up as a collaborative, so it's not a 501c3. It's a collaborative that's operated under a charter. You can go to verdefront.org for more information, and I will share the presentation afterwards as well. But there's a leadership council that is comprised of the mayors of Jerome, Cottonwood, Clarkdale, Sedona, Camp Verde, the tribe, the state parks, Park Service, 2 national forests, 3 county supervisors, 2 Yavapai County, and trying to get more engagement from Coconino County. And then some at-large members, which includes Yavapai College, previously Sedona Chamber, to fill an economic development tourism kind of seat, and the Nature Conservancy. And that group meets quarterly, most recently on Zoom, as you could imagine. We also have a coordinating team of kind of senior staff from those entities that kind of keep things moving forward. We have co-chairs. Mayor Linsky is one. Supervisor Garrison was the other, but we'll be having to replace him. And then we have active working groups of partners that are working on issues that were identified as shared priorities. Really important. There was a lot of community engagement to identify what the priorities are for this kind of work. So like Trails is a very active working group. Different partner organizations convene those working groups. So in that case, I believe it's state parks, Prescott National Forest, and Yavapai County that are kind of leading that charge. We have Watchable Wildlife, which is really developing wildlife viewing opportunities along the river and beyond. We have Fossil Creek, which is kind of a specific site that everything comes together, and there's been a need to really kind of wrangle that set of issues. And now that's really moving forward, but embraced by the Leadership Council. We have community engagement, which includes volunteerism, education, other kinds of awareness raising. Friends of the Verde River has been doing some really interesting podcasts and other things. So they're very involved, and Nancy Steele will be talking next. So she'll be explaining some of this. Some other working groups. Oh, outdoor economics, which maybe is of more relevance to some of you, which is really saying that there's a lot of economic development opportunities that make use of a free-flowing river, trails. Recreation has been identified and measured lately in the state, in the West, in lots of places that's really high economic value. So this is trying to get regional coordination and collaboration on some of these opportunities. I think that's the main thing I was going to be sharing. I didn't want to go too long. So I will stop there, and I know we have time for questions later.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can you hear me right now, Tani? Thumbs up if you can.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Let's move on next then to Nancy Steele from Friends of the Verde. How are you, Nancy? You're muted, Nancy. There you go.
Yeah, I'm good, and hello, everybody. I, like Tani, I have a presentation, and I was hoping that I would be made presenter so that I could show that. I don't know if that's at all possible at this point.
It is.
Accessibility, yeah, well, like Tani, it's telling me I have to go and change my accessibility preferences. So like Tani, I'll have to send you my presentation with all the pretty pictures that it has in it. I'm a very visual person, so I like to show all these great pictures, but I will run through it instead and send you the presentation later.
Thank you.
I think, sure. I think I want to start out. I'll read you Friends of the Verde River's mission, which is and vision. We work collaboratively for a healthy flowing Verde River, and we want a healthy flowing Verde River that supports our natural environment, vibrant communities, and quality of life for future generations. We do definitely think of ourselves as part of this community, and I'll talk more about that later. There's also a lot of things that we do that I'm not going to talk about. Tani mentioned a program that we have called Listening to the Verde. And so, as I said, there's a lot more I could talk about. What I really wanted to do was just emphasize that the Verde is an incredible treasure. The Verde River, 190 miles long, going off from the Chino Basin and north of that, even all the way down to the city of Phoenix, providing drinking water to over 3 million people, and all of the value that we get from it in the Verde Valley in terms of its beauty, the things that it does to help our climate moderate, the wild animals that it supports, recreation. It's of immense, not only local, but statewide and national value, but it is at risk. And I have a graphic that is in the watershed report card, which perhaps I can mail that report card when I send in my presentations, that demonstrates and shows that despite what you might have heard, indeed river flows are declining. Since 1990 alone, over a 30% decline in the upper Verde, which is primarily fed by groundwater in the Chino Basin, and an over 45% decline in the lower Verde south of Cottonwood and Camp Verde, which is not only from groundwater pumping, but also from ditch diversions. And so, as some of you know, in early 2020, we released the first ever 2020 Verde Watershed Report Card, which showed that this river and this watershed and our communities earned a C+. Not horrible, but definitely not great either. And so what it did was it quantified things. It gave us metrics that we could use to improve conditions here. And I want to talk about some of those things that we've been doing since. invasive species removal. Plants that are nuisance here because they remove they out-compete with native plants, and they remove good quality habitat for our wildlife, but they also prevent us from getting to the river. Plants like arundo and tamarisk form impenetrable thickets alongside the river. Sometimes people don't even know, or didn't used to before we got started, even know that they had a river. They couldn't see it, they couldn't get to it, they couldn't touch it, they couldn't fish in it. And so now it's hard to imagine those times, but now there are many river access points. People fish the river, people swim in the river, and they really enjoy it. But invasive plant management is a never-ending task. We have so far treated in the entire watershed about 10,000 acres of riverside habitat. And we have to monitor that. Our goal is to monitor about a third of it every year so that we have eyes on every acre about every 3 to 4 years. And we go in and retreat it. We hire crews, young people from the Conservation Corps, and we hire returned military veterans. We always try to have a military veteran crew also that's hired locally to do this work. And right now they're in the watershed. They are out there. They're doing your work, doing our work for all of us, removing invasive species. We engage the community in a lot of different ways. One of them, which I'm grateful to the city of Cottonwood for providing us funding to do what we're calling a bio blitz. This is just a fancy word for saying we're going to mobilize children, parents, seniors, people of all ages, but especially with a focus on reaching out to children through our partners with the Science Vortex. We're going to mobilize them to go out over 2 weekends and the weekend between in the spring and take pictures of every living thing they can find. And they upload those pictures to an app, and then we have a really good catalog of biota, living things in the landscape. And we can use that for science, but the kids can use that for learning and engagement and excitement. We might also be, we are also doing a similar community science project with landforms, namely erosion gullies. And we'll be expanding that program. We have some funding from the Forest Service to do that program. We engage our businesses, our local businesses, through a program we call the Verde Conservation Partnership. And those are businesses that commit to the river by making a donation monthly or annually, depending on what works for their business model. In past years, we've been able to raise about $15,000. We're hoping that we can double that when businesses come back. Actually, a lot of our businesses are doing okay, although a lot of them are not. So in the next several years, we hope that we'll be able to double that amount. And what we do with that money is we turn it around in the form of competitive grants and work in the watershed. Cottonwood has been the recipient of 2 grants in recent years, one for trail signage in 2018 and one for the Blowout Wash Trail in 2019. We, I think one of our biggest annual events, which will hopefully come back in a smaller form in 2021 and then in a big way in 2022, is the Birding and Nature Festival. I don't know if you've participated in that, but it brings about 450 people from across the nation, and even internationally. We've had people from Canada and the UK here to do birding. And why would they come here in April to do birding? What's so special about this place? Well, there's a woman, researcher, and named Sandra Postel, who's been working for many decades nationally and internationally. And she wrote this book a few years ago called Replenish. And she spent a whole chapter in it talking about the rivers in Arizona. And here's one of the things she said about the Verde. She said, breeding bird densities in the Verde's riparian corridor are among the highest ever recorded in North America. So that's why people come here. This is a really special place, and it's special because of the river. The last activity I want to mention to you is a new program that will be launching in 2021. We've already gotten started on it. Your mayor and your city manager are very much involved in this. It's called River Friendly Living. It's a newly branded program that will inspire a culture of voluntary river conservation. So it's going to be a certification program that will reward people at their homes and their businesses for doing the right thing for the river. And we're in the process right now of figuring out how do we quantify doing the right thing so that we can effectively reward people, give them a certificate, a sign in some way so that they know that they're doing the right thing. So in conclusion, I'll say, as the cliche goes, it takes a village. In this case, it takes a village, a community, a region to save a river. It takes all of us to save the Verde River. It takes all of these activities that I've mentioned. Plus, we need good policies, both local, regional, statewide, federal. We need good policies to help us manage our water and our land better. We need to continually be measuring and quantifying the state of the Verde watershed, the state of the river, and adapting and changing how we respond to it. And we need sustainable funding. And that's something that we work on also. We've leaned quite heavily in marketing, outreach, and communications in the last several years, and that's because we think it's really important that we keep more and more people engaged and that we turn more people into what we like to call river heroes. So thank you very much. You're all river heroes in my mind, and thanks so much for giving me the time to talk to y'all.
All right, thank you, Nancy, for being here. Can you still hear me, Nancy? Thumbs up if you can. Yep, great. Okay, good. All right, well, let's open it up then for questions from council for the panelists. Do we have any questions? I had a question. Oh, go ahead, Ron.
I was going to ask if George is still on the call. George, what are your future reservations like at the park? I know that you've told me that we have a dual season here in Cottonwood for the park, and I just didn't know what the future is looking like.
It's we are really still staying really booked out. Ron, we finally, this was the first week that I actually had any vacancy during this week. Even tomorrow I have over 70 plus arrivals again. So it hasn't really slowed up much at all. It's just the December's used to always be really slow, but it's not looking that way at all. We're going to stay busy through Christmas and right on through and New Year's and right on. So we're getting to that point of almost reaching our full carrying capacity. There's really not getting any slow time anymore. So yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah, George, I had a question too for you on that signage that you're going to be putting in. Can you give just a little bit more detail on that signage?
Yeah, it was some signs, we've been, is the Verde front, we've had our trail signage groups, and this is some stuff that is, it's been in the works for a real long time. We've actually had them sitting in our shop, unfortunately, for seems like almost a year, due to having to get all the cultural clearances and stuff. So they're very similar to what we already have out here as far as some "You Are Here" signs, but they're not all the same as what we've been working on more currently. They have a little more detail as far as it's our park map, because these are inside interior trails where people seem to get turned around a lot. And even though if they just walk a few more feet, they could maybe figure out where they're at, in the park, where they can see the lagoons or campground or whatever. But anyways, these are about 12 by 12s. And those are "You Are Here" signs. It shows their location on the map there in relationship to where they're at, and the other resources in the park. And then we also have a nice kiosk that was going to be going in down by the river that's been taking some time too, just explaining the river, very similar to our "String of Pearls" signs that we've all worked on for up and down the river at other river access points.
All right, super. Thank you. And is there any room at all for expansion at your of camping facilities at Dead Horse Ranch?
There's certainly room for it, and there used to be some talk of that, but right now there isn't any much movement or talk of it. As we all know, I'd love to have a lot more campsites. Our past director was looking at more cabins. That all went and got put on hold, but I'd like to see more campsites, certainly. We could certainly use them. Right. Currently, still, we have our group areas closed, our group campground and our group ramadas, as you may know, and our playground, which is a huge loss. Everyone's still are really missing all those. So that did cut me back 23 sites, not having the group area so open.
Okay. And then what's the status on Rock and River?
They're still moving ahead. It's just really slow with getting clearances. And I think they finally got things worked out with the easement and stuff for the road in there. The biggest hurdle is trying to figure out water and wastewater due to it's in that floodplain. When they sunk some wells, they tested the existing wells. They were finding that there was under a lot of influence of salt when they went deeper to get away from surface water. It makes sense being down Salt Mine Road there, but they ran into salt, and that's kind of, last I heard, that was one of the hurdles they were trying to figure out what to do with the drinking water, and then also figure out a lift station. So they're looking more maybe going primitive camping and stuff, and trying to do a few sites that way, I think is the way some of the agencies been leaning. So not full scale big RV park like what we have here at Dead Horse, even though that's what they wanted to see there originally.
Okay. Well, good deal. Thanks for the update. Any other questions, Council? All right. Well, that's it. Hey, thanks to all of you for being on the call today. Really appreciate your time and your ability to come in virtually and sit with us. So thanks again for all the work you do, and look forward to working with you throughout the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, everyone. Council.
Thanks much.
All right. Well, that brings us to our break then. Correct?
Yeah, we got.
A few years ago, and it was awarded to the city of Cottonwood for master parks and wayfinding master plan. Currently, we still have about $243,000 available on the grant funding after our master plan was completed. The city staff has been discussing with Northern Arizona Council of Governments, NACOG, and the Arizona Department of Housing, ADOH, on multiple projects in that particular master plan. That master plan was put together by Norris Designs for implementation. After careful discussions and consideration and guidance from ADOH and NACOG, the study group decided to steer the program towards improvements to our park system and away from wayfinding signs. That was some of the direction that we got from both the NACOG and ADOH. One of the reasons, of course, being that wayfinding, though, is a good way to get people to parks. Our concern was we have parks in our system that could use a little bit of updating and increased safety features added to them. So with that being said, the wayfinding sign program has not been eliminated. It is just going to be pushed a little bit further down our projects list. The two parks that are being considered are Garrison Park and our Cottonwood Kids Park. Garrison Park is our most heavily used park in the entire park system for Cottonwood. It could stand some improvements to be more usable year-round. Recently, we installed an expression swing, also called the Mommy and Me swing, with the financial assistance from the Indian Gaming and Self-Reliance Act monies from Yavapai Apache Nation. And the support allowed us to bring that swing set into compliance with all the updated requirements, including new surfacing. If you haven't been there, you drive by there, you can see some blue surfacing, rubberized surfacing that makes it a little bit safer for the kids to be able to get on the swings, jump off the swings without getting hurt. For Garrison Park, we're looking at updating the surfaces on all of our pay structures. We're going to try to add a shade structure to our current play equipment. We're looking to also replace our park benches from plastic into concrete benches, much like we did over at Riverfront Park at the Ramadas. And we're looking to upgrade our basketball setup to more of a commercial basketball setup that'll withstand a little bit heavier use. As you may know, we've had it damaged before to the point where we just had to take the hoop down altogether. We'd like to get that basketball court usable again, and the way to do it is to make it a little bit sturdier by going through a commercial basketball setup. At the Cottonwood Kids Park, across from the Rio Verde apartments on 12th Street and other surrounding residential areas, currently it doesn't have a park apparatus. And just a few years, it didn't even have restroom facilities. Now we do have restroom facilities available, and recently, in the last year or so, our Public Works Department has actually repainted the two Ramadas and refurbished them to looking a lot nicer than they were 2 or 3 years ago. The park is used predominantly for soccer fields by the AYSO, American Youth Soccer Organization, and some of the area adult soccer teams also play on those particular fields. Though they're not specifically for soccer, they do serve that purpose. There is no lighting at that park. However, it does have one large Ramada and one small Ramada on opposite sides of the park. And the installation of playground equipment would make this park a lot more usable for families in that surrounding area. And we do have a lot of families in that area. The other thing we have concerns with, of course, that we'd like to improve on is lighting has always been an issue at our parks, especially when hosting events. Field lighting can be extremely costly and very expensive to maintain. So we're giving consideration to portable lighting towers if it is allowed through CDBG, so that we can use those at different events to be able to extend them, or also use them at some of our sporting venues that currently don't have any lighting. Those are the kind of projects that we're looking for. Trying to improve our quality of life in the Verde Valley, especially at our parks. And recently we got approval from both NACOG and Arizona Department of Housing to begin moving forward with these particular items. They're very pleased with them. And we'd like to kind of get council's blessing to move forward. We have till about August of 2021 to expend these funds. We could get an extension, but at this point in time, we'd much rather get this done on a timely basis so that when CDBG comes, funds are available again, they won't have any questions about delays or anything of that nature. So with that being said, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Council, do we have any questions on the update from Rudy? I just want to say I'm really excited to hear that we might be doing some improvements at the kids' park. I think that's one of our most underutilized parks with the biggest potential. You know, the soccer fields are very popular, but I think we could be using those even more times throughout the year. It does draw a lot of families together. I know it's very popular with our Hispanic population as well. So any kind of improvements we can do there, I think, could be really great benefit to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, I would like to thank Jack Teal, David Hasselman, Scott over at Development, and Tricia and Ron for all the support and all the work we've done on this. It's kind of been a little bit tedious going back and forth and trying to decide wayfinding and parks. And I think the direction that NACOG has given us guidance, I think is the right way to go. And if it's fine with council, we'll start moving forward with developing plans to get these things done before August.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
We are ahead of schedule. We caught up quick.